The reason why he's coming out is to address the payments to Michael Cohen, saying that they were, quote, grossed up.
The former president of the United States, Donald Trump, walking into court right now.
Mr. Trump, is Michael Cohen a liar? Are you going to testify?
I have a gag order as to that first question. As you know, they've taken away my constitutional rights, so I'm not allowed to answer that question. This has never happened in this country before. It's a ridiculous thing. It's a ridiculous case. I did nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong. Take a look at Greg Jarrett this morning. He went on. Take a look at Andrew McCarthy or Jonathan Turley or Mark Levin. It's like they say there's no case here. And yet the judge has gagged me, and I'm not allowed to talk about, I guess, his total conflict. The judge is totally conflicted, and you ought to take a look at it. And I'm not supposed to be talking about it. But I am allowed to say that the judge has a conflict that like nobody's ever had before. You ought to take a look at it. He's taken away my constitutional right to speak. I was in Miami this weekend, and reporters are asking me questions, the same questions like you're asking me, and I have to say I have a gag order. I can't speak about it. Never happened before, ever. Number one. Number two, it's a fake trial. They have no case. And it's been absolutely proven now. They have no case whatsoever. This is Alvin Bragg doing it for political reasons for Biden. This is a Biden trial. He's a crooked president. Now, it just came out, Columbia just canceled their commencement. Axios. Columbia just canceled their commencement. That shouldn't happen. And it also came out that the protesters, many of the protesters, are backed by Biden's donors. Okay? Are you listening, Israel? I hope you're listening, Israel. Hope you're getting smart. But they're backed by Biden donors. That's where the money's coming from. And I'm not surprised at all. There's many other articles, many of them having to do with the gag order and the unconstitutionality having to do with the gag order. And it is unconstitutional, and it shouldn't be allowed. And I wish people could move a little bit quicker, the appellate courts, because the whole world is watching this, and they see what's happening. More importantly, frankly, they have no case. They have absolutely no case. It's a political hoax. It's election interference, anything they can do. And even the witnesses they want to bring up, they have nothing to do with the case. This is a ridiculous situation. Not fair. Not fair, but we will fight. Thank you.
Mr. President, how's your defense team doing?
How's the judge conflicted?
Okay, as advertised, Dana, he talked about exactly what we were told he's going to talk about. That second topic, Biden's donors backing campus chaos.
Just minutes away from finding out if Judge Juan Merchan will hold the former president in contempt of court again. We are told that he will get on the bench and issue his findings on whether or not finding the former president again violated the gag order, citing him in contempt of court 4 different times. That means he could potentially fine the former president $4,000 more than on top of the $9 grand that the president ponied up on Friday for the previous 9 violations. We should have that any moment now. Meanwhile, we got a preview of the major defense theme in this case, and that is that Michael Cohen went rogue. The defense attorney, Emile Beauvais, went through that issue with the witness on Friday, Hope Hicks. Ms. Hicks, of course, in a very emotional and tearful testimony, testifying against her former boss in this courtroom. She blamed it, or basically tied in some of the defense theory to try to blame this on Michael Cohen. Attorney Beauvais asked her, quote, "He went rogue at times, fair to say?" Hicks answered, yes. Ms. Hicks said she did not have kind things to say about Michael Cohen. He is expected to be the star witness in this case. She said, quote, "I used to say he liked to call himself a fixer or Mr. Fix-It, and it was only because he first broke it that he was then able to fix it."
Attorneys Andy McCarthy and Brett Tolman. Gentlemen, we'll see how much we can get to here, but this is what's happening inside the courtroom right now. Judge Merchan just said it's clear the $1,000 fine is not working. He said going forward, this court will have to consider a jail sentence. He then said, the last thing I want to consider is jail. You are a former president and possibly the next president, end quote. Andy, why don't we just start right there, because he's going to assess the gag order yet again. sorry, the gag order stays, but he'll assess the fine. So I think you're up to 10, 11, maybe 14 grand. I don't know. I lost count. Andy, go ahead.
Bill, as I said to you last week, if I were Trump, I basically bring in a check for 10 grand every Monday and just say whatever I want. This is all politics at this point. I don't think the judge, I mean, it's easy for me to say because he's not going to put me in custody, but I don't think the judge, because of the politics of this, it would be disastrous politics for the Democrats, for the judge to put former President Trump in jail over this. So he'll continue to fine him. And as long as that's what it is, I think Trump should just pay the fine and otherwise say what he wants to say.
Okay.
You know, he can't incite, he can't defame. And if he says something really stupid, the prosecutors can use that against it. That ought to be enough.
I want to go back to last Friday. Late in the afternoon, Brett, Hope Hicks said this. Trump was worried about how this would be viewed at home, meaning the Stormy Daniels matter. Mr. Trump really values Mrs. Trump's opinion. She doesn't weigh in all the time, but when she does, it's valuable. And she also talked about him trying to make sure that his family is proud of his campaign. How much play does that have with the jury? I guess we'll find out when this thing wraps.
Well, Bill, you know, it's a pretty simple calculation. At this point, the prosecution is not really worried about a conviction because everything that they're identifying right there, all that you listed that was stated in front of the jury, really does outline where Trump was, what his mental state, and that's what a crime has to include, a criminal intent. At this point, we have not heard anything that suggests it was a crime for him to not want his family to hear some of these salacious details that were in the media. And it's not surprising, and the jury is going to react to that, you know, I think probably pretty positively, given Hope Hicks' testimony.
Now, what do you think of this whole idea, Andy? I mean, here we are at 9:38. Court could resume any moment now. And we have no idea who will be on the stand. It doesn't really matter about us. But it's the attorneys for the defendant. They are given no heads up to prepare, to get ready, just like when Hope Hicks walked out there at 11 a.m. on Friday morning. Maybe she comes back, or maybe we push on. Do you know of a case where the witness list was kept from the defense attorneys?
I've never heard of such a case, Bill. It's usually not in the prosecutor's interest because the judge then has to give the defense, if it's going to be fair, the judge has to give the defense some time to get ready for cross, which means the jury sits around, which the prosecutor never wants. But, you know, it's not any less unfair, if you think about it, Bill, than having an indictment that doesn't tell former President Trump what the crime is. So if he's not being even told what the crime is, which is about as basic as it gets as a due process violation, this is just par for the course. This is a travesty.
We are seeing new pictures now. This is part of the pool. The photographer goes in and takes a couple shots. And Dana, I can officially report to you, red tie, white shirt on this Monday. Brett, back to the whole threat of jail time. The judge also said the magnitude of that decision is not lost on me. Your continued willful violation of the court's order constitutes a direct attack. It will not be allowed to continue, not allowed to continue. Do you see this as a possibility that the former president would actually be jailed before this thing has gone to a jury?
Well, absolutely. The judge is boxing himself in his own corner at this point. He's going to be the one that is going to threaten, and he's going to fine this limited fine, and he's doing it with the underlying order being unconstitutional. How does anybody that's in the position of Donald Trump, who knows it's an unconstitutional order, how does he, with all of his ability to communicate to the American people, how does he not make comments? How does he not talk about this case? He knows it's going to be an issue on appeal, but it's the judge who's now put himself in this position, and he's going to have to put him in jail because he's now threatened it. Otherwise, he looks feckless, and the president gets stronger.
I'm AI Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Fuck the fake news. Wake the woke, wake up America. It's not about the left or the right, but what is right and what is wrong. Tune into NewsWars.AI.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building.